if I were to define desperate to a client, I would say this: a conditional state created by lack to settle for whatever you can have instead of remaining intentional for what you want and need. Long definition, long winded definition, but I'll give it to you again. A conditional state, okay, that's really important. A conditional state created by lack to settle for whatever you can have instead of remaining intentional for what you want and need. Sometimes, what you're calling desperate isn't a reflection of a healthy decision, it's a reflection of malnourishment. In order for us to look at dating apps as a form of desperation, remember the definition: a conditional state created by lack to settle for whatever you can have instead of remaining intentional for what you want and need. We have decided to label the entirety of dating apps as desperate when in reality, the real desperations comes from the unhealed lenses and pains you've never healed from. Because you would not be in desperate positions if it had not been for pains you've experienced. But in this particular direction, to call dating apps desperate is real shaky because you're actually limiting yourself from experiencing what you really desire and you're dressing it up as something that's noble when in reality it's just you being stubborn. In reality, it might just be you not knowing much of what you're looking for, knowing much of what you want, coming into agreement and alignment with what you need, and making a healthy decision from a lens of clarity. Can I tell you what's truly desperate? Instead of looking at dating apps as desperation, how about this? Over attaching to someone you don't know. How about clinging to outcomes? Hmm. How about using the app to seek external validation? How about crashing out over rejection? Hmm. How about forcing connections with misalignment? How about posting thirst traps as profile photos? Everything else that I just listed is more of a reflection of desperation than the dating app itself. Because what we're choosing to do from a place of pain, lack in us, is we're choosing to go on these apps, go on these places, these social medias, make connections out of fear of missing out, all to prove a point that you belong, that you're enough, that you can be loved, that you can be wanted, that you're desired, and constantly trying to prove your worth to people. But realize how you've been doing all of that and a dating app ain't been in sight. Notice how you've been doing all of that. And if a dating app has been in sight, it wasn't the dating app that made it desperate. It was the intentionality and lack you move from that made it desperate. Because instead of moving intentionally and maximizing the effort, you decided to not just stay on the free plans and stay on these things. You decided to just match with whoever. Sounds more like that is desperation to me than the actual external experience of what's shared on the app. So, what's truthfully intentional? Things like maximizing your effort, being in the present, and moving from abundance, not performing for it. Those are the things that can change the game. Those are the things that can make the difference. Saying dating apps are full of desperation is missing the bigger picture. Because what's really a reflection of desperation isn't the place to go to actually connect. The real act of desperation is the lack in which someone is moving from. That instead of reflecting inward through self awareness and honesty, we would rather push out. And we would rather make everybody else and everything else the issue. Do you notice how some people might get into the habit of calling something ugly, desperate, shameful, weak? Not because it actually is, but because they themselves don't really know exactly how to engage with it to the healthiest degree. You ever met somebody who calls emotions weak, who calls emotions and the ability to be in tune with one's emotions as something that is small, that lacks, that is just makes you Dealing with emotions. Ugh. Who has time for that? It's not because emotions are weak. It's because you don't know how to trust yourself enough to handle the emotions you're running from. Is that more of a dating issue? Is that more of a partner issue? Is that more of other people issue? Or is that more of a me issue? I probably would say it's more of a me issue because we have to be able to reflect on inwardly and be curious. Where does this idea of these things being desperate really come from for you? What is desperate exactly about a dating app? Is everybody on a dating app? Is everybody on a dating app that bad? Or is it just the people that you've matched with? Because you got tired, and because you got tired, you decided to give yourself fast food instead of a nutritious meal. You decided to settle for something that was never in alignment and then got the nerve to blame the entirety of the environment and system because of the choice you made that came from places of malnourishment and pain, not from places of stability, healthiness, and abundance. Interesting. So all I'm saying is the real desperation is not necessarily so much from what you're engaging in as it relates to the dating app or the lack thereof, the usage of it, things of that sort. The real desperation comes from what posture are you moving from inwardly? What posture are you moving from inwardly? Okay? Is this making sense? Y'all ready for the last two? I want to give the last two and we can get going. Put one in the chat if you're ready for the last two. Okay? Because this is going to be really good. We're going to finish this up. And then we're going to come back for part 4 and answer another question that I think is really, really important. Now, these aren't all the issues. These aren't all the problems. Okay. I definitely don't want to paint it as if these are the only ones. But in my work, these have been more of the common thoughts. Okay. That are shared within the conversation of dating apps. Okay. Let me also say this just for the record. let me also say this as a record. A secure person, because we're talking about moving in security, okay, becoming secure. Okay, go ahead and check out that website. Get your free relational diagnostic and attachment styles at the top of my pages on all socials. It'll be linked in the description for YouTube. A secure person can use a dating app without being desperate. A secure person can use a dating app without being desperate. An insecure person can meet someone at church and still act desperate. Because desperation has less to do with a location, has everything to do with a heart posture. Desperation has less to do with a location, more to do with a heart posture, more to do with your mental and emotional approach, more to do with how you're choosing to navigate and engage with what's in front of you. Some of y'all ain't never been on a dating app and more desperate than people who are on dating apps. How that work? Matter of fact, some of y'all are more desperate and claim that the dating apps ain't of God, and yet got the nerve to say somebody who's married is of God for you. What? Boy, y'all on crack and dog food at the same time. How can you sit up here and say with a straight face that God told you somebody else was your husband and wife, and yet and got the nerve to say God told you that, and at the same time look at somebody who's on a dating app and say, "Oh, you desperate? You putting yourself on a sales rack." Who's more on a sales rack? Somebody who's choosing to look for somebody who's available, or you? Because it sounds like to me there's a little bit of a mix up. There's a little bit of a mix up. I say it with love. I got a lot of love for y'all. But some of y'all would be so surprised. Some of the craziest stuff. Some of the craziest stuff. Some of the craziest stuff. And it just don't match up. It don't match up. It really don't match up. It's crazy you calling folk on dating apps desperate. And yet the person you with got multiple baby daddies and baby mamas in different sections of the whole entire country. And you was like, I guess I'll just take it. Crazy. All right. All right. All right. I'm done. I just think it's just interesting. I just think it's interesting. Okay. Um, the tool isn't desperate. Okay. My relationship with the tool reveals whether I am grounded or not. Okay. I want y'all to write that down. And y'all don't run away and take this stuff personal and all this stuff. Of course, if you got children, you're just as available for relationships as well. Okay. I just note that some of the craziness y'all may say that comes out of y'all mouth and at the same time calls something else desperate, dysfunctional, all the things, and yet don't turn a mirror to your own experiences and get in alignment. Somebody has to say it. I guess I will. Let's get aligned. Let's become aware of some things. Let's be honest about what we're seeing and what we're experiencing and do better because we can. Okay. The tool is not desperate. Your relationship with the tool reveals whether you are grounded or not. Okay. And that goes for anything. If that's not just for dating apps, apply that in your life. Money and the need for money isn't desperate. Money and the need for money is not the root of all evil. Scripture says the love for money. But when we see money as a tool, it doesn't mean you're desperate. It means you have a healthy relationship with it. Okay? Being in the gym, taking care of your body, all these things, that's not an act of desperation. Your relationship with these things is what really speaks volumes. Okay? So I hope this is making sense.
Hey you, so glad that you made it to the end of the video. Okay, if you want to know more of the context behind what was shared in this video, be sure to click here, okay, because that's going to be actually the stream replay as part of our recent series or conversation that we shared live with our audience. Be sure to check those out. We go live weekly across all platforms. And also, if you want to know the deeper meaning behind all that was shared and really the biggest goal of getting you to a place of security, to let go of anxious attachment, but more importantly, to learn why you keep losing yourself in the midst of relationships, because it's a lot simpler than you think. It's going to be explained in one video to get you the results you need right then and there. Explains everything. Be sure to click here, okay, for this video. All right, and I hope to see you over there. Peace.